My coverage of Computex 2024 is brought to you by Antec, Asus, Corsair, and G-Skill. To learn more about all their new products, check out the links in the description below. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my coverage of Computex 2024. I'm here at the Antec booth at the Grand Hyatt Hotel, and they've got a lot of stuff here that I was not expecting. It's actually pretty exciting to see all the new projects that Antec has taken on, starting with some new cases. This is the Flux Pro. This is their Flux Pro. Here's a look at the front. You can see that we've got a wood accent design, mesh front panel, very nice airflow. They've gone with this wood accent that seems to be an increasingly popular trend for a lot of cases this year. I don't know, I think it looks really nice on this particular chassis. You guys let me know what you think though. They're gonna offer this one in black and white. They have a lot of mesh on the bottom panel here, just underneath the tempered glass side panel, and they've continued that mesh on the other side as well. The case is gonna come included with 5 fans. They're not gonna be RGB, they're just kind of going for more of a subdued look here. The fans that come included are gonna be 3 140s at the front. We're gonna have another 140 at the rear, and then 2 reverse fans that are gonna be 120s mounted to the power supply shroud. That actually makes a lot more sense why this is ventilated, because otherwise you're not really gonna be intaking much air. Those fans are kind of just gonna be, you know, looking pretty but not doing much work. But with all this ventilation at the bottom, hopefully we'll be able to see some hopefully improved GPU temperatures. So what's interesting is that this is not going to be supporting the rear connect or the back connect motherboards like the BTF boards from Asus or Project Zero from MSI, because the timing just wasn't right. They were already well into development with this case by the time those boards started becoming more popularized. However, they are going to be releasing a Flux Non-Pro. The Flux Non-Pro is a slightly smaller case, but still has a lot of the same premium features as the Flux Pro. But one advantage that this case has over the Pro is that it does support rear connect motherboards. I don't believe, yes, that actually there's one right there, as you can see. So if you are gonna go for that cable-free look, then maybe the Flux Non-Pro is the one for you. You can see we're still going with the wood accents here, whether we're going black or white. The Flux Non-Pro comes included with 5 fans. You get 3 120s at the front, 1 140 at the rear, and then 1 120 on the bottom. That's gonna be a reverse fan as well. You can see they've got 2 of them installed at the moment in this particular case. Radiator support on both the Flux cases is pretty impressive. On the Non-Pro, you get up to 320 on the top, up to 420 on the front. And you can even do 420 and 280 at the same time if you wanted to, or you can do dual 360. Radiator support on the Flux Pro is even better because obviously it's a bigger case, you just get more space. You can do up to a 420 on the top or the front. I don't believe you can do those simultaneously, but you can do triple 360s, top, front, and bottom if you so choose. Just a lot of cooling potential in both of these chassis. Oh, I almost forgot one more difference between the Flux Pro and the Flux Non-Pro is that the Pro actually has a little LCD readout here that monitors CPU and GPU temperatures, but the Flux Non-Pro lacks that feature completely, just to save some money on the final cost. For pricing, we're looking at around $109. They're talking about MSRP for the Non-Pro, and then $169, $179 thereabouts for the Flux Pro, which I think very fairly priced. Assuming that these cases can actually deliver the amount of airflow that they look like they can, then I think we're looking at a fairly competitive mid-tower in this class. You guys remember this case, the C8? I did a build of the month in one of these not too long ago. It was a white one, so it might look a little different here. There's not a whole lot to talk about with the C8s. They've brought them back though because they do have a couple different options for them, very slight adjustments. For example, the black one is now gonna have a wood panel option, which looks very fresh, just going with that wood panel design. Everything else is more or less the same about this case. The pricing is going to be very competitive still. $129, I think it's $129 for the non-aRGB version, which basically means no fans. You bring your own fans, BYOF. And they've also got a white version of the C8 that now has a aluminum front panel, which also looks very classy for the same price. Then we have the Curve, the C8 Curve, more or less the same. The tooling's a little bit different here because we have a curved tempered glass panel. It's just a single panel that goes around. A lot of good mesh at the top, very open for airflow there. However, the C8 Curve, as you can see, is back connect supported. So cable-free motherboards can slot right in here. Whereas the original C8s and the ones with the new front panels are not going to support that. This is the C7 aRGB. This is more of a standard case. It's not a dual chamber design like the C8, but it's rather a bit more familiar to an older style case. It does look like we have some fan mounts on the power supply shroud there. It looks like you could probably mount a couple, maybe even 3 120s. And then you also have this fold down flap with ventilation so that those fans again can actually be doing some amount of intake. Oh, the front, I think the front panel comes off too. Oh, look at that. Huge ventilation strips on both sides of the right side panel. You can see we've got some included fans right there. Bunch of 120s. We've got a barn door design here for cable management. It looks like you can just open this guy up. I don't know if we can open him up because you would need a Phillips head screwdriver to remove those 2 screws, but then that door would fold open. And it looks like you can also mount some hard drives and SSDs to that. So that's nice, nice use of space. Very functional. Kind of hard to see, but it looks like you got a PWM fan hub that's included, as well as aRGB connections. And also you can see right here that this does support back connect motherboards with all these huge cutouts. Now this is something that I wasn't expecting to see from Antec, the Performance 1M. A small form factor, smallish form factor. Yeah, we can call it small form factor. It's a mini ITX case. They didn't know what the volume was. I asked them how many liters. No one had any clue. I would assume, just eyeballing it, maybe 25, 28 liters. Just a rough eyeball, don't quote me on that though. It is a slightly more chunky SFF case, but the trade-off is that you actually have a lot of hardware compatibility to work with here. You can see we've got an RTX 4090. This is a tough gaming graphics card from ASUS. RTX 4090, this is a triple slot card, and obviously even if it's a triple slot card, sometimes it's 3.5 slots, right? We can get some really wide, beefy 4090s, even 4080s on the market. So in that case, you can actually take this entire centerpiece, the center of the frame, and slide it one way or another. Obviously it's a sandwich style case. You've got your motherboard and power supply on one side with the GPU on the other, but again, that middle frame, that middle part of the frame can be slid either way if you want to add more clearance for a GPU, for a thicker GPU, or save more clearance for a taller CPU cooler. And while there's no radiator support per se, you do get support for 2 140mm fans at the bottom of the case, which is going to be intaking air from the bottom. There's plenty of room under here. Lots of ventilation on the side panels here. It's probably going to be a bit of a dust magnet just because there's no actual dust filtration. They're just these aluminum panels which feel remarkably well built. And you can see these triangle-shaped ventilation holes here are very wide. They're very wide, very open, so I would imagine that cooling would be pretty good in this case, especially for being the size that it is. Got an interesting power button here. They're thinking about maybe replacing one of these Type C ports for a Type A port, just for wider compatibility. But they're looking at a relatively steep price of around $200, maybe $250 for this case. The jury's still out on the exact MSRP. However, I think with how much the SFF market has exploded and how much demand is growing for cases like this, especially ones that don't compromise on what kind of hardware you can fit inside of them, you know, I think 200 is probably pretty fair. They are going to be going with this red design, this red aluminum on the inside, so it doesn't really show up once you have the top panel on. It doesn't bother me. I think it looks pretty nice, actually. I'm sure there's still going to be people who want to see a blackout version of this, but all intents and purposes, I think it looks pretty good. Any Antec fans out there? Well, we got them right here, folks. These are the new Tranquil 120s and 140s. Ready to go. Available in black. I don't think they're going to be offering these in white, just blacked out for now in either aRGB or non-aRGB. These are actually the same fans that are going to be included with the Flux Pro and the Flux Non-Pro. Here's a quick look at some of the stats for the Tranquil 120s. You can see we've got FDBs, fluid dynamic bearings, which is fantastic. And then we also have 4-pin PWM connections and 3-pin LED cables coming off of these fans for the aRGB version. And the fan speed on these goes up to 2,000 RPM, up to 1,500 RPM on the 140s, but you still get all the same features as you do on the 120s. These are their new Nova fans. The Nova fans are more of their premium fans, so those are slightly more on the budget side, but still good performing. These are top tier performers, and they look quite nice as well. Got some rubber padding on all the corners. Actually, they have a pretty cool demo over here. These go wild. So we've got the Novas over here, and then just standard competing fans over there. 3,200 RPM is the max fan speed. These things are just hauling. Obviously not the most quiet at this level, but there's a fan switch here. It's on the maximum speed. You can calm down there. And I believe this speed switch is included with the fans. If it's not included with the single pack, it's definitely going to be included with the triple pack that's going to be offered. The other nice thing about these fans is that they're using LCP blades. That's liquid crystal polymer, which is a very high-grade premium material that basically prevents the blades from warping over time. A lot of fan blades, if they're using cheaper materials, will warp and actually can expand over time, which may explain why sometimes your fan blade will start hitting the edges of the frame. But LCP materials significantly reduce the chances of that happening, which basically allows fan manufacturers to get the blades as close as possible to the edge of that inner frame. Let's see if I can actually stop one of these here. So you can see just how close they're getting these blades to the inside of that frame. Orbit fans, they didn't really say much about these fans other than they were trying to make the blingiest aRGB fans that they possibly could and make sure that the LEDs were visible from all angles. I think they've managed to achieve that. I'd say mission complete on that one. Still pretty high performing fans. I don't think quite as high performing as the Novas. I don't believe the blades are LCP. They definitely do not look LCP, but they're more about that unicorn lifestyle for those interested. Available in black and white as well. And there's an infinity mirror in the middle. Very blingy. Power supplies are super boring, but they're a necessary part of any PC. And I guess we'll quickly go over some of the new ones here from Antec. The HCG Pro series, 850 watts, all the way up to 1200. These are all 80 plus platinum certified. These are ATX 3.1 ready, which means that they are PCIe 5.1 compatible with that included 12 volt high power cable. You can see the connector for it right there. Up to 1200 watts is quite nice. And they're also releasing an SFX unit. This is actually the same one that we saw in the Performance 1M. This is the SF850X 80 plus gold unit, also PCIe Gen 5.1 ready. Very nice little solid units. This is only going to be available in 850 watts. Then we got a couple basic ATX units here, 80 plus gold, 850 watt unit that is fully modular. And this is a confusing unit to me because it's non-modular. Well, I guess it's partially modular. All right, partially modular, looks fairly budget, fairly low end, 80 plus bronze, okay, but it's 1000 watts. So I guess if you really wanted to cram some high-end hardware in, but you want to save as much money as possible on the PSU, this might be a fair option. All right, now this is the product I expected the least from Antec, is a handheld gaming PC. Who could have seen this coming? I don't think any of us did, but here we are. They've actually partnered up with Ayaneo, which is a very popular brand for handheld PCs. They've been around for a long time. I did a video on one of their units a while back. Pretty good stuff, but Antec is now taken over. They've partnered up with them, and they've come up with this design, which is really cool, actually. I believe they're calling this the Core HS, available in black or white. It's featuring an AMD Ryzen 7 7840U. This is the top of the line APU on the market right now. Windows is installed. You get Windows pre-installed, and look at this. There's a physical keyboard, which you don't really see on a lot of these handhelds, and you can cover it up like that. Spring activated. Feels very solid. I love the fact that there's a physical keyboard here. This actually just expands the functionality of the device so much compared to a lot of other handheld PCs. The specs are really solid, like I said, 7840U. And then even though there's two options here, I believe Antec was saying that they're probably only going to offer the unit in 32 gigs of memory, that's DDR5, with 2 terabytes of storage, which is going to be plenty for the vast majority of gamers out there. Obviously, this is a handheld mostly designed for gaming. They are going to be using a standard 2280 M.2 PCIe Gen 4 SSD. The screen is very nice. It's 6 inches, which actually makes it a lot more portable than a lot, like the Steam Deck. I never take mine anywhere. I would love to, but it's just a little too big for my taste. This is the perfect size in my opinion, especially when you put it in the case. This slips into a backpack very easily. It's got a nice weight to it, but it's not too hefty. It actually feels very well built as well. But the screen is absolutely gorgeous. IPS display, 1920 by 1080. It's a very nice screen. It gets pretty bright too, 400 nits of brightness. Pretty solid all around. The pricing for this is very competitive in my eyes. I think they were saying MSRP of $799, but the e-tailers are probably going to be selling it for a little bit less than that, around $720, which I think is very competitive when you consider what even just like the standard Ayaneo devices go for, which is roughly $1,000 for a lot of these premium devices. The price tag also seems a bit more reasonable to me in the fact that it's also going to come included with a case, a very nice carrying case, a screen protector, as well as these joystick caps. And last but not least, the dock. The dock is actually pretty nice. You can connect dual monitors to it. You've got a USB-C port that supports DisplayPort Alt mode, 2 USB 3.0 ports, I'm sure 3.1 Gen 2, and then an HDMI port as well with an Ethernet LAN port. So this is all going to be included with this package for what, roughly 700 bucks. One of the big questions I have for it is battery life. How long can you actually game on this thing completely off the grid without being tethered to a power outlet or something like that? One of the reps here speculated around 3 hours of game time, which is obviously going to depend very largely on what you're doing on it, screen level, brightness, what game you're playing. But I would love to get one of these in my office at some point after Computex is over and do the testing myself to see just how competitive this could be against all the other contenders in the market right now, because it's such a huge developing market. I mean, handheld PCs have just blown up in recent years, and this one looks very promising. But there's just a lot of moving parts to these devices that determine whether or not they're actually good or complete duds. So maybe more on this later if I can get an actual sample of this. I'd be really curious to find out for myself how it performs. But you guys let me know what you think about it. I think it's a very interesting move for Antec to just go with something completely different, entirely out of their wheelhouse. But hey, you know what? Yeah, I appreciate the risks that they're taking, not just with completely new products like this, but with their cases as well. But that's going to do it for my coverage of Antec here at Computex 2024. Thank you guys for watching my videos. Make sure you subscribe for more tech content coming at you really soon, and more coverage from this event on the way. Have a good one, guys. I'll see you in the next one.